everybody, and welcome back to Beyond the Box. Tonight, we're going to have a fun show. We've got Mr. Dennis Carroll coming on, and I want to talk about the occults and there's some folklore in there and what it aligns with today in society. So, we got Sherry. Hi, Sherry.
Hi, Brenda. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I got a little bit of sleep, but I didn't go to bed till like 6:30 this morning, so I don't know why. I don't know why.
Odd sleep times.
Yeah, my sleep times have been kind of screwed up because I have to be up during the day to do the Monday through Friday show. Then I have to. It's all messed up. I don't even know. Hello, Denise. Hello, Juan. So right now we're waiting on Dennis. I better message him because he did. I sent him the link and then he gave me a thumbs up. But I don't. Let's see. Are you coming?
Yeah, he's the star of the show. We kind of need him.
He's never late, so hopefully he didn't trip and fall or anything like that. So how was your day today?
Oh, my day was cold but good. And it's we didn't get any snow that they forecast, so I'm happy about that.
Oh, you didn't get no snow?
No, we have snow. They were forecasting more today, and I was not looking forward to that because got to shovel the driveway, and
Yay.
that's not fun. I'm not a snow person, even though I was born and raised in it. I just, it's pretty for Christmas, and then it can just go away. As far as I'm concerned, I'd rather be south.
Snow Christmas Eve, wake up with the white stuff all over the ground, and then the next day, go away.
I can just go, yep, we can move on out. And then all the other Michiganders that are snowbird, like to be in the snow, ski and all that. I don't do that stuff.
I know. Well, look at here. Hello, Dennis.
Good evening, ladies. I've had a little bit difficulty getting in here, but I made.
That's okay.
It's been one of those nights. There you go.
Yeah.
How's everything going?
Oh, it's going pretty good. I had one of those last night. I had one of those nights.
Yeah, I hear you.
So, I thought maybe we could talk a little bit about the occults and some of the folklore and what you think about some of it bleeding into society the way it is today. I mean, things are so.
Well, I have been immersed recently deep in research on the Appalachian witches.
Ooh.
Which, matter of fact, I live very close to the Appalachian Mountains. I can see them from my front door. And it is a very interesting tie-in with folklore that you have in that respect. It is, I mean, this is something I grew up with. I mean, I always heard this in families that were taught, would talk about these things in hushed tones and tell stories. And every family, once upon a time, when families were closer then than they are now, they're more strung out now. But families were very close back then, and every family had its ghost story or its stories of the supernatural or weird things that happened, And when I was a kid, I would go from back in the old days. The old folks would sit on the porches, and they would on summer nights, and I would go from porch to porch, and I would collect these stories. I would hear all the stories and things that they told, And but there is one interesting story in my own family that I'm going to relate to you a little bit that shows you kind of the way folklore ties into stuff and things, and the cultural part of it is, I take it from an anthropological part, to look at it that way, because the cultures of the world are fascinating, whichever ones you go to look at and where they're at and the locations that they're at and all that. We are our culture. That's what we are. I mean, basically, if you want to look at it that way, definitely. And it goes back not just a few generations, but many, many generations, That's the most interesting thing about it. But There was a story in my family about my mother and father about I think they had not been married very well, had been married for a little while, but they I think had one child, which was my older brother when this happened. But they were living in sort of like a apartment complex type thing. And now, of course, this was before I was born. I had nothing to do with this, but I heard about it afterwards. But it was a split level apartment, like one side was apartment, and it was only two apartments together in this house, like what I'm saying. And so they had been married that long, and they were living in this house, and in the apartment next to them was an old lady that everyone said was a witch, you know. And they told stories about people going in and coming out of her house all the time, And sometimes people would go in crippled up or something, something be wrong with them, and they supposedly came out okay. So this woman was doing, some pretty heavy duty witchcraft type stuff, evidently. And but what the interesting incident that happened now, my uncle, who was like I think about like maybe 10 years old, my mother and father walked outside one day and left the baby in the house with my uncle. Okay, and he was just, say, here, watch the baby, we'll be right back. They had to go outside and talk to somebody or something. And while they were gone, said my uncle was sitting there with the baby and said the door that, there was a connecting door between these apartments. And they, most of the time they usually kept them locked, I mean, it was somebody else's, privacy kind of a thing going on. But so all of a sudden that door popped open while he was sitting there. And said the biggest black cat he'd ever seen in his entire life walked out of that door and into where he was at. And he said, and he talked about it, he said it was not just a regular little black cat, like a house cat. This thing was big, huge. And said, and it walked past him and into the kitchen, back into the apartment, into the kitchen. And he jumped up, it scared him so bad, he jumped up and run outside. And got his sister and my mother, and he said, "You got to come back in here. There's something going on." Well, she thought something was wrong with the baby, so she runs back in, and she said, "What's going on in here?" And he told her what he saw, and the door was locked. The door was now locked, and they looked all over the apartment. There was nothing there, But she said, "I know he saw something because it scared him." Crap. He was really genuinely scared by this. And he said, and he was the kind of a fellow that a regular house cat wouldn't scare you, And so that was the interesting aspect of this. And they said this woman that basically was supposed to be a witch. I said, well, how convenient. Witches supposedly can turn into cats. And that's the Appalachian witches, though, supposedly can turn into black jaguar type looking cats.
Oh yeah,
now back in the old days, we had jaguars. As a matter of fact, you have them in Texas. Anyway, and they are making a comeback in the South. By the way, they almost died out completely, but now they're making a comeback. But they say that some of these jaguars that roam the Appalachian Mountains were solid coal black looking things, but they weren't supposed to be normal cats. They're witches. They have turned into cats supposedly. Or they're witches, familiars, and all this. So this has been part of my life, as far back as I can remember. These things that they've talked about these things, And this is the local folklore, and the Appalachian Mountains are full of this stuff. But just recently, I've gotten much deeper into looking at some of this stuff, and I'm going to talk a little bit tonight about the skinwalkers that scare other skinwalkers. These guys are so bad. The other skinwalkers are scared of them, okay? And they are called, they are called, actually, they're not really, the real skinwalker is out in the Southwest, that's in the Hopi region and Navajos and all that. But we tend to call them, they call them that. I classify all this as shapeshifters, that's what they are. And that is a premier thing of witchcraft that a lot of the dark witches go to acquire these powers, and that's one of them, okay? So anyway, the interesting thing about this echelon of shapeshifters scares the other witches because they don't want to mess with them. They're so bad because they are called, actually tagged, they are called shadow walkers.
Oh,
And the reason they are called that, they're not shadow people, okay? That's a different thing altogether. That has nothing absolutely to do with this. The shadow walkers can become shadow that walk. They can astral project themselves into places and into things and into people and animals. They can actually astral project themselves into your dreams. And according to the legend, the shadow walkers can become dreams. They can become dreams, and they can enter your house this way and do things to you this way. They circumvent that invitation that things have to have by entering in through the portal of your mind.
right.
Wow.
This is freaky stuff. It is really way out. And, I've had a lot of people over the years, Brandon and Sherry. I've had a lot of people over the years, say, I want to teach me about astral projection. I want to be able to astral project and all that. Or I did it accidentally and I want to do it again. And I said, well, really, it's something you might not better mess around with.
No.
Because it can get you in some bad trouble if you're not careful about how you approach it. Yeah, I mean, you could be astral projecting yourself and leaving your body, and you come back and you may have a problem. There may be something else in your body when you get back home. There, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So you may
yeah,
have. You got to be very careful how you approach this stuff. People that do this know what I'm talking about. This is very much like remote viewing. Remote
yeah,
viewing sends your consciousness out, to see things and to go in place. This is just one step above that, it's sending your spirit out, like.
yep.
And your
That
spirit
happens.
can go and possess the body. Yeah, instead of, now this skinwalker, if you want to call it that, this shapeshifter doesn't have to shapeshift. They can project themselves into the body of a wolf or a dog or a cat. They can possess that animal
Wow.
with their spirit. And if they can do that with animals, they definitely could do that with somebody. But they can't do it to an average person, they say, because, average person is kind of built up, guard against this kind of a thing. But some people are very susceptible to it. And these are
Right,
the people they can possess. People with sort of, I'm not going to say mental problems, but kind of a feeble mind, they're not very strong spiritually, can be possessed by these things. This is
right.
what, and they turn people into what? Zombies like this,
Yeah,
They can control this person, have them go assassinate somebody, or rob a place, or steal something that they want stolen. That becomes an ultimatum to them. They can do this. So this is just part of the power of the shadow walker. And the reason they call them the shadow walker, they become shadow that walk. In other words, they're not really physically in our world in this way. Now, a skinwalker, if you run up on him, it looks kind of like a coyote or something like that. You might could hit him with a rock. You might could do something against this because he's physically in our world. You understand what I'm saying? And that's why the skinwalkers are scared of the shadow walkers, because they're in between realities. They are in a liminal place in between. That's a very, very strong, kind of powerful thing to be able to do. And
now
when you do freaky stuff like this, you are actually engaging in extreme spiritual warfare against someone else.
yeah,
Sounds
now
like it.
Dennis,
I'm talking about not just defending, but offending someone. You can
now,
offend someone this way very badly. So
Dennis,
that's what makes it so downright dangerous. You know.
Dennis, if they go into somebody else's body and take possession of that body, do you think that if they leave, that the people remember what they did while they were in them?
That's a good question.
I mean, kind of like some people when they get possessed, period, a lot of times they don't remember a lot of the things that they did.
Well,
But what
you have to wonder
people,
about that, Brenda. You have to wonder
yeah,
about that, because what if these people, didn't go out and do something horrific like shoot up a school or a restaurant, and they go back home and say, "Why did I do that?" I'm a former law enforcement
yeah.
agent, and I never will forget. One time we had a case with this guy. He got into an argument with his girlfriend. He killed her, cut her up in pieces, put her in the freezer, then went home and took a nap.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
nice guy.
And I asked him later, I asked him, why did you do that? I mean, you were just having a simple little argument. Why did you do that? You know, and the guy says, you know what? I don't know why I did that. I don't know why I did it. You know,
Was he
so you have to
possessed?
wonder. You have to wonder sometimes if what's going on out there might not be instituted or caused by something like a shadow walker who could do these things, control, manipulate people and animals too. You got to wonder sometimes. Here's the freaky thing: when you walk up on an animal, whatever it may be, are you really dealing with an animal or something else?
Right. Is there something in that is making it
And
do
then
the things it
there's recent reports that I've been getting the people going, you know, at night letting their dogs back in the house, you know, and it's not their dogs.
They're
It's
not
coming
acting
in.
right.
It's
Yeah.
something like this, you know.
That's creepy.
I don't know what I would do. Well, my dog is so little that if that happened to him, I would just look at him and flip him in his nose and say, "Yeah, right, demon, get out."
I
What are
think
you
some
gonna
dogs
do?
are safe territory. Yeah.
So what made you decide to start digging into the Appalachian witches?
Well, and I've been talking to a lot of cryptid, you know, people into the cryptid investigations and all that, and they go on and on about skinwalkers. I said, well, we don't call them that here. They've always been known as witches. That's what they are. Skinwalker is a witch, male or female. They can do these things. Okay, that's what these shapeshifters are. There are different types of shapeshifters, you know. Now you have werewolves, vampires are shapeshifters, witches are shapeshifters, demons are everybody does this, okay? Everybody has this power to do it, and usually it's used for bad purposes most of the time. But even angels can shapeshift. Think about that a moment, you know.
Yeah.
This is a supreme supernatural power that these beings have over us. You know, no normal people can't do that. I don't know about you, but I can't turn into a German Shepherd when I want to. Okay, it don't work that way. But you got to have something that enables you to do that, and that's why they seek this kind of power. But the deeper I got into, you know, talking about these Appalachian witches, I began to see something that kept popping up that they had more than just shapeshifting on their minds. They had control and manipulation. I want to tell you something about black magic, witchcraft, whatever name you want to give it. Magic in itself is nothing but the manipulation of reality. It's changing things for the way you want it to be. That's what it basically is. Whether you burn a candle for it or you engage with crystal or whatever the situation, you are changing reality to a certain degree. You're messing with it. And these guys are going way overboard with it in that sense. They're changing the reality around them. If you were to meet, let me say this. So let's just say, I'll give you a scenario. Let's say you had a problem with a witch that lived next door to you, and you went over there to complain to her about something, you know? And then when you get back home, you think, what did I say? What happened? I don't remember what happened while I was standing there. She could be doing this to you as a way of mind manipulation. They can do that. They can, you know, like the very famous scene in Star Wars, you know, where the Obi-Wan Kenobi told the stormtrooper, "You don't see us. You don't see us." You know, that's the way these witches can do you. They can screw your mind up. You might remember talking to her, but you won't remember what you said. You know,
Right.
so they're playing mind games that way too. It is mind over matter and mind over manipulation going on with these things. The deeper I got into looking at this, the more screwier it became. You know, I'm saying they have more power than people really truly realize. If you can take over, so, and like I said, I hate to use the term, but there's no other term. A feeble-minded person take over their body, get them to do what you want. I can send them to kill you or to do whatever I want to do. I don't have to worry about it. They'll get blamed for it.
Right.
You know, what a perfect crime. What a perfect crime. Yeah.
It's kind of like our government. They send other people to do things, or they blame other people, and they just walk off scot-free.
Yep, they sure do. It wasn't me.
Oh yeah, and the government, is engaged in doing a lot of this stuff. That without doubt, that if I know about this, they definitely know about it.
Yes,
And they're probably using it to a certain
a
extent
lot of
because
it.
look, that's the perfect assassin.
Oh yeah,
That's the perfect way to take care of somebody you want to. If you can do that to other people, I mean, that's it. And here's the thing gets me, ladies. The thing gets me about this. You're violating spiritual laws on a long level here. You're violating some very bad things. You're doing some very bad things against people. And even the laws of God and nature, you're going against them doing this kind of stuff. There are certain laws, you don't want to violate. That's not
right,
good to do that. And this is definitely violating a bunch of them in my book. Absolutely. And this kind of power, and look, okay, have you ever heard of the hand of glory?
Yes.
You ever heard of the hand of glory?
yeah,
The hand of glory is a human hand. It's usually the left hand of someone who has been executed, like hung or whatever. Witches take this hand, do their incantation spells with it, make a candle like out of this hand. And supposedly this thing can open doors, lock doors, and can also put people to sleep in the house that you want to go into. You can put them into a supernatural sleep. And this hand will allow you to walk in the doors and do whatever it is you do. In order to perform, if I were a witch, a bad witch, and I wanted to do something to you, I've got to leave something on your property as a
yeah,
connection.
yep,
They
That's the way
always
the
do.
spells work.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And that's why I warn people. I say every now and then, it's a good idea for you to take inventory of what's in your house.
yep.
Look
Especially
around and
especially
make sure there's
cleaning
not
out.
something there that's not supposed to be there. You
Right.
got to be very careful. And the other way is it also now, and you might remember Rosemary's Baby. Remember that? You ever seen that movie?
Oh
Rosemary's
yeah,
Baby.
I
Don't you
remember.
remember the witches stole the old man's glove and took it and killed him by using it? Don't be very careful with your possessions. They
Yeah,
are you to a certain extent, and they can be manipulated. Witches know this stuff. All they need is, like I said, I used to joke about this. Somebody would say, "Well, are you mad at me?" And I said, "Oh no, I just need a lock of your hair, if you don't mind."
yeah.
Uh,
You're like, no.
you wouldn't want to do that. No, you wouldn't want to give anybody a lock of your hair. No.
Yeah, I heard your fingernails
Yeah.
too. They like to
Yeah.
get your fingernails, your hair, your
Right,
fingernails.
right. Well, people used to believe in burning all that stuff, your hair and your fingernails, you burn it, put it in the fire and burn it. It was big no to let that kind of stuff get out because that's you. That's part of you, and it can be used against you. And another thing is things that you take. If I were to walk up and hand you a piece of paper and say, "Here, Brenda, here you go," I would advise you not to take that without knowing what it is.
Right.
Because curses are put on people that way. Spells are passed to people that way. And once you take that, whatever I'm giving you, it belongs to you. It's yours for good.
Yeah.
Unless you either pass it along to somebody else or do what needs to be done to destroy that spell. You got it. It's yours. It belongs to you now. So that's why your mom and dad used to tell you don't take things from strangers.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
Absolutely.
yeah. Mhm. And that's why,
So,
they say blessings over food, They say blessings over food because they use that would nullify the poison that might be in it. A lot of witchcraft spells are passed through food that people serve you.
oh wow.
You better know
I
where
never.
that's coming from.
I
So
was
they've
gonna say
got
I
you
never
coming
really
from
thought
many
of that.
different ways here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to be very careful what you're dealing with.
Oops. I didn't think about that. Like, you know how some neighbors will come when you first move in and they bring you dishes. I brought you a cake or,
Mhm.
something like that. I never thought of that. Yeah. Oh, wow.
It makes you think
You
twice
would not
about that
believe how
one from
many
now on.
cases. You
Do
would
what,
not believe
Dennis?
how many cases I've had with people, their neighbors, practicing voodoo and witchcraft on them. Yeah, oh god, yeah, it happens all the time. I had a woman get in contact with me. She had 2 dogs, and she was afraid they were going to poison the dog. These witches, this family of witches moved in next door to her, voodoo priestess, and she just didn't like her from the start. But she didn't like that woman. The woman was real nice to her, but she did not the woman. And she had something against her, and said bad things started happening. You know, she had bad luck, biggest bad luck run about. Her dogs got sick. She was scared to death that she was going to poison her dogs because she was right next door. You know,
Yeah.
and the last time I heard from her, she was, I told her what to do to, guard herself against this, how to, cleanse her property. I told her what to do, and she called me back a few later and said, "Thank God they're moving." I said, "Well, they take care of your problem, maybe."
That's
But
nice.
you never know what your neighbors are doing, folks. That's
Right.
it.
How do
So
you
how
cleanse
many?
your property against them?
Yeah. But if you've
I
got
don't think he heard you,
things like that
Dennis.
happen, if you've got,
De-
yeah, I'm sorry. What?
Dennis.
How do you cleanse your property against them, like the witches, if you got a witch next door?
Well, the old-fashioned way to do that was the witch jars. I know you've heard of the witch jars. A witch jar was like a mason jar, and you could put certain things in, like a page from the Bible, put a blessed cross in it, put a piece like of your hair or something in it, whatever, and all these little ingredients. You could bury it on your property, and this is what was called a ward. Now, a ward is a protective device. And this was a ward against witches, supposedly. And, to this day, I've had a lot of people come and say, "Hey, I dug this thing up in my yard. What is this?" And I say, "Put it back, okay?" just put it
Put it
back where
back.
you found it and don't worry about it. I don't tell them what it is, but,
So
but the
how many? How
don't
many
dig
of
up
you?
your good luck there. Don't do that. But a lot of the old home places had these. People believed in this big, and in the houses they would make witch marks. You ever heard of the witch marks?
No.
They would
Yes.
make witch marks on. I find those in old houses sometimes, up in the rafters usually, because the higher up it was, the more powerful it supposedly was. And
Right.
it's like a V. It's a W imposed with another W upside down, like an M and a W. That's what it is. That's a witch mark. One of them. There are several types, but that's one of them. Yeah, and people believed in this stuff. It was, something that protected them. And the main thing against witches was either wearing something red. I see you got a little bit red on your jacket tonight. You wear a little something red. It's supposed red wards against black witchcraft, supposedly red.
Oh,
And there you go. And a lot of mothers used to tie a red string around their children's waist to send them off to school. That was a big belief, back in the day. That's a lot of superstition and folklore and connected with that. And the big main thing against witches is iron.
iron.
Iron keeps them off your property. So they used to would take, of course, that's where your horseshoes come from. Remember a horseshoe hung
Yeah.
up for good luck? That wasn't
Yeah.
just good
Yeah.
luck. That was to ward off witches. Yeah, that's to keep witches away. And they would also take 10-penny nails, the big nails, and drive them in the ground in the corner of the house outside. And or they would take railroad spikes and drive them in the center of the property there. It was iron, and it's very protective. That's more protective, supposedly, than silver. Is
Back
against
in the
werewolves and
day,
vampires.
back in the day,
Mm-hmm.
people used to have iron fences around their houses.
Oh yeah.
Remember the old big
Oh
black
yeah,
iron fences?
wrought iron
Yeah.
fences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also they were buried under wrought iron cages to protect their bodies when they were buried.
Oh.
It's supposed to be against grave robbers, but hey, it's iron. Think about it.
Right.
Yeah. So a lot of this stuff goes deep into that. Yeah.
So
So that's
how?
where your value of folklore comes in. You see this stuff popping up in folklore all the time, and you see the patterns, that are there with the superstition and folklore. They believed in this stuff, big time. This was something, and you didn't sit around. And by the way, at night you didn't sit around talking about witches like we are tonight. You didn't do that because they might hear you.
Oh.
They might hear you.
Well, you don't need that.
Yeah.
No, I don't want that. I live in a town where we got a bunch of witches. There's a bunch of different types of witches around here.
Oh yeah, well you got your kind of different classifications of witches, definitely. I've dated some, but that's another story. Anyway, the whole thing is that when it comes to witchcraft, there's certain things that you do to protect yourself are things that people, have relied upon for hundreds and thousands of years. It goes deep into it. They believe that even, animals like we're talking about here, like a witch could turn herself into a crow or raven and sit on your doorsill and hear all your business and know what you were up to and how to do something against you. And so people would not, they were very wary of animals, dogs and cats that were doing unusual things, Yeah. Or if you got a wild bird got in the house or something like that, this was an omen of ill intent to them. They would say, "Hey, something's up here." And here's another thing. And now, the deeper I got into this, the freakier it got. Okay. The Appalachian witches supposedly can even turn themselves into a spider.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. And they say they can be a little spider or one about the size of a cow.
What?
Can you imagine that?
No.
Oh, yeah. That would not be okay with me. I don't like spiders.
I don't either.
Yeah, no.
Well, these are a classification by themselves. They were called spider witches. They could do this. The spider women, spider witches. And they supposedly would kill people like this. There's one story of a guy hearing his cattle restless in the barn one night, and he went out there with a lantern and a shotgun. He thought it was like maybe, a cougar or something. And he gets there and opens the door, and he hears something. He looks up in the rafters, and there is a big, huge, giant spider up in the rafters of his barn.
Yep, time to move.
And this thing is already killed. This thing has supposedly already killed one cow. And he shot at it with a shotgun, yeah. And his the preacher, the neighborhood preacher said, "You did the right thing, but you used the wrong ammunition. Next time, if the spider witch comes back, you shoot at it with rock salt.
Oh.
Salt will get rid of it.
A spider.
But you gotta let me bless the bullets for you."
Yeah.
And that's what they did. And supposedly when this thing came back for probably round 2, I reckon it was, using this place like McDonald's or something. When it came back a few nights later, he shot at it with the salt, and supposedly it blew up in a ball of fire, and that was the end of it. It was gone. But that was a witch, supposedly, a spider witch. And supposedly these things, women can turn into spiders. It goes back to a connection to the Cherokee Indians. They believed in the belief that there were women who could do this. They could turn themselves into spiders. And the interesting thing about it is the spider is also a symbol of femininity because it was the woman who weaved, like a weaving a spell. The woman who weaved, the woman who took care of the household, and that's where spiders are found in the household, weaving their webs. This is a symbol of a woman, too, but only sort of, you might say, the more empowered feminine symbol, definitely, when it comes to spider witches. And they are also very grounded in the Greek mythology of Arachnid. Remember that story, Arachnid? She boasted that she could outweave the goddess Athena. And Athena said, "Well, you're going to be that smart like if I turn you into a spider and you can weave for the rest of your life that way." And that's supposedly where the spider began. That goes back to ancient Greece.
Wow.
So Arachnid would have been known as the first spider witch.
I never thought of that. That's interesting. I never thought of anything like a spider, a bug, being used for like.
Well, I guess it stands to reason if you can turn yourself into a cat or anything, you could do that with a spider too. I guess if you wanted to,
Yeah, and
but
a lot of
think
people
about
that
this: you could turn.
But a lot of
If
people
you, if you
that
could
do
turn into a
witchcraft,
spider, you could sneak into somebody's house. You could very much spy on
yeah,
people that way and know what all was going on in the neighborhood.
yeah. And I think a lot of witches, people that do witchcraft, I think, in their houses, there's probably quite a bit of spiders hanging out there too. So, you know, I guess it goes with the
And
territory.
Yeah, that's true.
like I said, of of homemakers too. So it's a
Yeah.
perfect thing because most witches are women. We got to face that point. Okay, most women. Of course, you have male warlocks, you have male witches too, but predominantly more women go into witchcraft than men do in certain
Yeah.
aspects. Well, that's where your broom comes in and all these other things. The broom is a symbol of the housewife. That's the
Oh,
woman.
yeah.
The woman and all that. That's the way they looked at the broom. And that's why the broom became the symbol of witchcraft. Because
Hmm.
that symbolized them. Their household duties and stuff that their power and control over the household. That's what the broom symbolized. And the witches would use the broom as their own symbol because of that. The symbol of power. That's what it basically is. And I've had people ask me about that. Do they need the brooms to fly? Not really. They don't need the brooms to fly. The brooms were
Right.
used to put on a certain flying ornament that went on them, made from the fat of baptized babies and certain other ingredients that we won't get into tonight. But this ornament could be rubbed on them in sort of, let me say, their sexual private places with a broom handle. And this would allow them to levitate and fly, supposedly. This is another witchcraft power that they like to obtain. And it also could also tie into astral projection as well, in that matter too. That is, and if you hear most people talk about astral projection, they talk about the flying part of it. As
Yeah.
you're flying around things and all that. So this ties into that as well. So the deeper you get into witchcraft, the freakier things get. Uh, it's amazing, and no wonder, I was telling somebody that the other day. No wonder J.K. Rowling picked out witchcraft to create a whole world around it, because it is that deep. It does have that many facets to it that you definitely could create something like Harry Potter out of witchcraft. No doubt about it. You couldn't do that with baseball,
Yeah.
You got to use witchcraft, definitely. But um,
Mm-mm.
to me, it makes sense. Yeah. He's got so
Yeah.
much to choose from, and yeah,
So what did you find out about your little witches out there in your mountains?
yeah. The Appalachians are very ancient. They go back. As a matter of fact, they were once connected to the mountains of Scotland, by the way. And I find it very interesting to note that most people that settled in the Appalachian Mountains were of Scottish descent, by the way. So they didn't really go to another country. They kind of went back home in a way, because those mountain ranges before the continents split apart were connected. And part of them were even connected to the Swiss Alps. So this is a very ancient mountain range. And it has a lot of stories and superstitions, like, well, of course, it's rifle place for Bigfoot, for Dogman, and things like that. But you have also, have the Wampus Cat. You have, oh God, you got a ton of cryptids in the Appalachians to choose from. And not just the witches themselves, but there are a lot of other things. You got tons of ghost stories, hellhounds. The list goes on and on and on. The things that supposedly populate the Appalachian Mountains. And like I said, it is just a classification unto itself, really. Although I like to study different areas, like the Northeast or the Southwest, like where the original skinwalkers uh, are, and the different places. But also, I like to get into the culture of the indigenous peoples. The Cherokee, the Pawnee, and you hear a lot about Dogman all the time. One of my favorite skits doesn't get that much publicity. You ever heard of the Bear Man?
Bear
No.
Man? No. There's a new
The
one on
Bear
me.
Man,
Mm.
sort of like Dog Man, only as a bear. Okay, and what he is, He is a usually he was an an American native brave that could turn into a bear, and he was more powerful than a wolf. Matter of fact, Dog Man could probably the Bear Man would probably mop up the floor with Dog Man. Okay, it wouldn't be
Oh,
any
wow.
doubt about that. I run into a lot of bears in my time being out in the woods. You know, you respect them because they are the true kings of the forest. Okay,
Yeah, they
especially if it's a grizzly, something like that. Definitely. Well, where I lived, you know, we had a lot. They still come down out of into the foothills sometimes in the winter. We have them run all over the place. They're big black bears, you know. But a lot of people think they can walk up and pet these things. How stupid can you get? But that's
I
the way some
know.
people do. Yeah. Um, I, there's one woman I saw a film the other day. One woman was on the side of the road trying to feed this bear. I mean, a full grown bear. I'm going, woman, he could tear your arm off. My gosh, you don't know what you're doing. I mean, that's crazy.
That's me, but I wouldn't
Animals, you
walk
know,
up to it. I would roll the window down and throw the food out and drive away.
no.
I don't know.
Claw up your car.
Yeah, yeah. But you know, the bear was venerated by the American Indians, and the Pawnee and the Cherokee did a bear dance, and I find that very interesting. They would do a bear dance every spring, and this dance was done to wake up the bears from hibernation. You know,
Wow.
so they had a big connection with bears more than they did wolves. Um, to a certain extent. So I could see them coming up with a bear man. Definitely, that would be a very interesting legend that they would. But supposedly, the bear man was more like a protector of the tribe. He was not an antagonist. He was more like a guardian kind of a spirit, more so than Dogman or Bigfoot or anything like that. He had more of a connection with them that way because, like I said, they venerated the bear. They understood the bear was a king too, you know, and you
Yeah.
didn't mess with the king. You weren't careful, you run into some trouble. Um, Most of the time, you know, and when you run into a bear in the wild, unless it's a female, and more you know, you got a bad problem if it's a female with cubs, okay, but
I know
most of the
that.
time you can scare, you know, do the right thing, you know. Don't ever run from a bear, though. I tell people, if you run, that's an open invitation to come after you. Anything.
Yep.
Don't ever run from it. Try to
They'll
back it
chase you
up.
down.
And
Yep.
what you need to do to, you know, again, I have run into several situations. I've run into wolves. I have run into wild dogs. I have run into cougars. Cougars, you don't mess with either. They'll mess with
No.
you real quick.
No.
And cougars, I'm gonna tell you something interesting about a cougar, and I tell people this. And I had an old hunter tell me this one time many years ago. You know, the cougar knows you're there hours before you know he's there,
Really?
and he
Wow.
begins to hunt you in a wide circle. And he comes around you, and the circle gets slow, you know, smaller and smaller and smaller. And he said, when you see the cougar, it's usually too late.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Well, I've heard him
Mhm.
say that you don't turn your back on them. You
You look
walk
at them.
away backwards. You watch them, look at them, and walk backwards.
Yeah,
I've seen someone do
they
that.
stand, and this will work for you out in the Walmart parking lot. Okay, this
Yeah.
will work for you out in the Walmart parking lot. You keep eye contact and be aggressive. You know, if you walk through the parking lot with your, if you walk through the parking lot, you know, with your purse held up here, shaking in your boots, you know, you're a prime victim. Okay, they're
Right.
gonna say, hey, this woman, we can do something with her. But if you walk through the parking lot with your head up, making eye contact, daring somebody to do something, they're going to usually leave you alone.
Yeah.
Animals are the same way. Animals, if you make keep eye contact with them and don't back up on them, you can back up slowly, you know, which is a good idea if you're trying to get out of the situation. But don't turn and run because that's just saying, hey, I'm gonna come after you, but you run it, I'm gonna get you. You just you putting yourself in a bush. But if you are more aggressive, you even shout and scream at the bear a little bit, or move your arms a little bit. that's being aggressive. That will most of the time work in your favor. Most of the time. Unless, and like I tell people, unless the bear is having a bad day, then you got a problem.
Right. That
You
wouldn't
know,
be good.
in the Walmart parking lot, Dennis, you know what I usually do if I don't want to be bothered? I talk to myself. People think I'm crazy and they leave me alone.
Oh my gosh.
I'm just talking to myself.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people got away from that. A lot of people got away from the indigenous peoples years ago, Brenda, Sherry, by acting crazy, and then the Indians was, "Oh, don't mess with them. The Great Spirits touched them. Leave them alone." You know, if they act crazy, you could probably get out of the situation. You know,
Right.
that you got
See?
into with them.
And nobody wants to mess with
Yeah.
that.
They're like, leave it alone. It'll follow you home.
Yeah, we don't want it. Go away. Get your bear spray out.
My person in the
I
chat.
had
Hang on, Dennis.
incident happen.
Hang on, Dennis.
I had
Give me a minute,
an incident happened. I was going to tell you, share with you. This
Dennis.
guy called me. This fella I know, I won't call his name, but the fella I know, he likes to go out in the woods. He's a big deer hunter. You know, he likes to go out and hunt deer and all that. And I used to do a little bit of that years ago, but I don't do it anymore, man. Anyway, he called me up the other night. I mean, you know, like about midnight one night, shaking in his boots. He was scared out of his wits. He said, "You got to come over here. You got to come over here. You got to come to my house." You know. I said, "Well, what's going on? You know, somebody trying to break in your house. What's going on?" You know. He said, "It followed me home." I said, "What do you mean? What followed you home?" He said, "Just come over here. Come over here." So I went. I go over to his house, and and this is a guy. I mean, this guy is scared of nothing. Okay, I know. I've never known him to be scared of anything. He is scared out of his wits. He is close to hysterical. Okay, and he's sitting in the middle of the living room on the floor when I get there, and he says, "It followed me home." Said, "I saw it out in the woods miles away, and this thing has followed me home." I said, "What's followed you home?" He said, "Look out the curtain. Look out the window and the end of the trees." And he had some woods around his house, like, you know. So I go out and I pull the curtain back and I look, and off in the bushes are two eyes looking back at me, two glowing eyes, like. And I said, "Oh yeah, I see what you're talking about here. That is not good. You know, this is not good. I have seen these things before in the woods. I call them peepers. They just like to watch you or look at you all the time, and you can see these eyes in the dark very well. I mean, you know." And I said, "This is not good. Definitely not good." He said he saw this thing. He was on his way. He was, you know, packing some gear up and he's fixing to get in his truck and come home. He heard something and he looked down in the bushes and he saw these eyes, you know, looking back at him. Well, it scared him. He got jumped in the truck and he took off for home, which was like 20 miles away or something. And when he got home, he said he got out of the car and was going in the house. He heard something turn around. And he saw the same eyes looking at him from the bushes out there. That's what freaked him out. And I said, "Well, I tell you what," I said, "we sit down here." I sat down in the middle of the floor with him and I said, "Look, let's just, you know, do a prayer of protection here and all that. And this should drive this thing away, you know." And that got him calmed down and got him, you know, got him more sensible. We did the prayer, you know. I got up, I walked back over and looked out the window, nothing. It was gone. Okay. So I told him he was a happy camper after that. So, but anyway, what followed him home? Somebody asked me the other day. I told them about this. What followed him? I said, "I don't know, but whatever it wasn't good because it really had an effect on him, definitely." But sometimes you can pick these things up, and sometimes they will follow you home.
Yes.
If you're not careful. And that's why I tell everyone, I warn everyone, because all over the years, I have had tons of cases of people who go off to investigate ghosts and all this other thing. They do not protect themselves going in or coming out. And these things follow them home. They'll go home with you. They'll attach to you and come home and do stuff in your house and around your kids. I said, that's not good. You need to protect yourself and stop this and not let this happen. That's professional. That's being real professional about it. That's not being amateurs, you know. But you'd be surprised. how many times that happens, and like, the many times I've had people contact me after they foolishly used the Ouija boards for stuff that
Oh
they shouldn't have
yeah,
been doing.
those people are
Uh,
dumb.
many cases, many cases.
Yep.
Yeah, I got a book on so many reasons why not to use a Ouija board.
Yeah.
They're bad. They open up portals.
They let things in, and if you don't know how to close them, they
Yeah,
just stay.
yeah.
They stay. Yep.
As your best leave closed. But I'm gonna tell you the thing about that. When you and I tell people you got to think about this. When you contact something on the other side, whatever it may be, you don't know what it is. You really don't
Right.
know.
Right.
You're dealing with, and that's sort of very dangerous. It's just like, somebody knocks on your door tonight, you're gonna run over and open the door. I would hope not.
No.
You have more sense than that. You look out the window and ask who it is or something. You don't know who you're dealing with on the other side of that door, and spiritual doorways are the same thing.
Yeah.
Spiritual doorways can be that way, and you can do that with anything. You don't have to have a Ouija board if you do it. If your intent is to do that, you can do it with a piece of paper and a glass. I mean,
That's true.
it's
That's true.
nothing like that. So you want to you don't want to mess around with stuff like that, because, like I say, who knows what you're going to let in when you open those doors? And that's what you. That's really. But there's enough stuff with just walking around without you inviting it. You know. That's what I told. We've talked about this before. Most people say, they said, after hearing you talk, Dennis, we get rid of our welcome mats. Okay, we don't want a
Oh
welcome
yeah.
mat out there anymore.
I don't have.
Outside the
My.
front, my
Yeah.
not to invite something in that you don't know about.
That's right. I have a mat outside my door that says nothing on it. It's to wipe your feet. And one day, my manager got me like these little gnome things to hang up for like summertime, and they said welcome on them. And she put them in my yard. And when I seen them, I went and took them out of the yard and just brought them in the house and put them away because I did not want them out there. I'm not welcoming anything. Nothing is welcome in my house if I don't let it in.
There
No.
you go.
Yeah, that's good to know.
Yep.
And it's like we were talking about the shadow walkers. They get around that invitation thing. That is sort of a spiritual law. Something of the supernatural nature has to be invited in. But they get around that by coming through the portal of your mind in your dreams and stuff like that. That's the way they approach you. And the dreams, they can attack you in your dreams, because in your dream state, in deep in sleep, you're very vulnerable. You're very open to this kind of attack. And they know
Yes.
that. See, they're exploiting that, to a certain extent. They know what they're doing. And I have my own self. I have been spiritually attacked in dreams. Luckily, I'm at myself in the dream, and I know what to do against it in the dream. But a lot of people are not trained for that. They don't know that. The things that you have to do to protect yourself. But let me tell you, and talking about the Appalachian witches, I want to relate a story that's also in my family. And I may have told you about this before. I'm an old man. If I repeat myself, you probably need to hear it twice, okay? But anyway, this happened to my grandmother many years ago. My grandmother was a very devout Christian woman. From 5 or 6 years old on up to when she passed away at 100 years old. She was a very devout Christian woman. And there was a woman in the neighborhood that was a witch, supposedly, and everybody knew this woman. And I know her name, but I'm not going to call it. It's not a good idea to call names of these things. But um, everybody knew this woman was a witch, and she was a very malevolent witch. She hated Christian people, especially, supposedly. And she really took a disliking to my grandmother. And my grandmother never had nothing, and never spoke to her, had nothing to do with her, but she just took a disliking to her. And one day my grandmother got sick. She got very ill. She had to go to bed. And this was unlike her. She was healthy as a horse. I mean, nothing that she never got sick, no colds, nothing like that. And it said she had to go to bed. She was actually dying. I mean, doctor comes here and the doctor said, this ain't good. You know, she'll be lucky if she's here in the morning, you know. And she was dying. And my grandmother called my grandfather to her side. She said, look, she said, I want you to do something. He said, God has told me something. And I want you to do something. He said, well, whatever it is, I'll do it, you know. She said, you go to the front doorsteps of the house and dig down and tell me what you find. And he said, I'll do it, you know, do it. And so, and he did. My grandfather was a smart man. He listened to my grandmother. Okay, he did what he told. And he come back in with a jar, mason jar. And he said, I found this jar. And she said, well, you open that jar and tell me what's in it. So he opened the jar up and he told about it. Said it had a bundle of black cloth in it. Told how many yards. It may have been 15, 20 yards of cloth on this thing. He unwound this black cloth and it got down to a piece of black paper folded up. And in this black paper, he said that there was some pieces of plant like and a snake cut in 7 sections.
Oh.
And burnt snake. And he told my grandmother what was it. She said, you take that out in the bag, you bust that jar, and you burn every bit of that, and you rake the ashes out in for the chickens. Get rid of it, much as possible. Get rid of it. And so he said, I'll do it. And he did. He went right out there and he burned it, set a fire, he burned it, busted the jar into pieces, threw the glass out in the field, raked the ashes out. When he got back in the house, my grandmother was sitting at the table.
Wow.
And she said, do you want me to fix you some dinner?
Wow.
She recovered that quick. And he asked her later, he said, how did you know that jar was out there? She said, God told me it was there. And God told me it was a witchcraft spell. And I found out later, now my grandmother told me this story when I was probably, I guess, 10 or 12 years old, somewhere in there. And I found out later through my own research that whenever a spell is cast, a death spell is cast on a person, they will put it at your front door.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's good.
And then it belongs to you. And that's exactly what this was, a death curse. And here's the interesting part, okay? She said, after they broke that jar and all that, 2 weeks later, that witch was dead.
Oh.
She died.
So it returned back to her, because when you're doing casting for no permission, it's got to go back to the caster. Yeah.
That's very, that my correlation of research would dovetail with that so many years later, and then it's astounding, and it's just like a light bulb moment, when you see something like that. But I don't think she was ever really sick till the day she died. I don't think 100 years later after that happened or somewhat, she lived a long life. But for something to tell her that where it was at and to go do what to do about it, she was definitely on top of her game. Absolutely. But yeah, that's the number one way to actually get rid of skinwalkers. You call their name, or any witch, supposedly. If you call out their full birth name, like Elizabeth Ann Warden or something like that, you call out the whole name and say, I declare you to be a witch. You do this publicly. I declare you to be a witch. And whatever weapon you have formed will come back to you. And supposedly, they will die. That takes their power away from them once their secret is known, because their power is in their secrecy. They guard it very well. Satanists do this too, by the way.
Yes.
I actually one time snuck in on a black mass, a real black mass. And it could have cost me my life if they had caught me there while I was watching this stuff. They guard their secrecy very well. So you have to be very careful if you run up on something like that. You better get out very quickly, because if they find you, You will not, probably you will disappear. Put it that way. You won't be seen
Well,
again. You might end up
well,
with a ritual. uh,
well, they're a lot
they,
more open with it.
they present their secrecy and the
Yeah,
shadows of it. Yeah.
they're a
Mm.
lot more open with the Satanism nowadays. For some reason, I mean, they're just throwing that stuff everywhere. But we have a Satanist church in Austin, and
Um,
I had told someone one time we need to go like out in the outskirts of it
Becoming
with some
much closer,
binoculars.
more open now than ever before because they
Yeah,
want to get it in the mainstream. They want to make it
yep,
acceptable. Yeah.
yep,
We have
yep.
one
They do.
downtown. There's one downtown. Satanist church is right next to a regular church.
Oh, go figure.
Yeah. I don't
Yeah.
know if they still use it or not, but yeah.
Incident that happened not long ago here in the town where I live. They had a witchcraft shop move into town, and they were, selling occult stuff, and all that. And as an advertising thing, I think it was advertising. They left all around town on park benches and stuff. They left this little doll, maybe about a foot and a half tall, little doll, and it had a note on it. And the note said, "I have a soul in me. Take me home."
Oh
Oh,
no.
yeah, no.
No. No creepy dolls.
And I had a they said, what is it? I said, well, just don't take it home, okay? Whatever you don't mess with it, leave it alone, and don't take it home. That's not good. That's not good. Why would you term something like that? You could have put on there, "I need a home, take me home," or why would you put, "I have a soul in me, take me home"? But there are signs I have seen. "We will buy your soul. Call 100, some good number. We'll buy your soul."
Yeah. I see we have a town out here. And in this town, like Satanism runs rapid in this town to the point where they will tell people, like people that are Christians that are going to church and whatever, they'll call them over and they'll talk to them about what they're doing. They had a lot of young people, and they were taking them up to this table that was under a tent, and they were handing them pamphlets, and then they would put an upside down cross on their forehead, and they would, say the hell Satan before they walked away. And I was like, what are you doing? So when I sat and studied it, I found out that one of the biggest religions in the world is Satanism. They have succeeded everybody
Oh yeah,
else. Yeah.
oh yeah, and it's growing in popularity day by day, more and more, and that's why I say they want it to be more. They want it to be more acceptable. They want it in the mainstream. They want it to look cool, something good to do, especially to the younger generation that's being prepared with this, with the rituals that they do on stage and everything else. Look at Lady Gaga; she's definitely a witch. I mean, the,
Yep.
the list goes on, and some of them will admit it. Oh yeah, I'm a witch. They're very plain about it, and they're not trying to hide it.
Right.
But I have talked to witches, reformed witches that have become Christian. And they said that that witches really truly hate Christianity. They hate Christians with a passion, and they say we sit around and hone our spell skills, and we hone the things that we do. We hone them on tormenting Christians. We love to do
Yep.
that. That's our hobby. That's something we
Wow.
do for fun. Uh,
Wow.
they do that. Yeah, they have a very deep animosity because they blame Christians. Here's the weird part, okay? They blame Christians for having them burned at the stake when most of those poor people burned at the stake were not witches, okay? They weren't
Right.
witches. They really
I
weren't
didn't
real
think so
witches.
either.
They were just
I
getting their
figured,
land. So, yeah, they were stealing their
yeah,
land. They were doing things, getting their enemies. Yeah. They weren't the real witches, but yet they blame Christian people for that. And they had most of the time nothing to do with it. It was more the corrupt politicians that were doing that.
right, right. Yep, that's what it was. They do everything like that. It's everything. I think that everything since the dawn of day has been nothing but a land grab and a precious metals grab and a oil grab, and that fits into almost everything. So it's sad. But I had thought back then when they had like the witch trials and stuff also, I thought that I think they weren't witches. I think some of them were just people that had like abilities, that could do things. And instead of keeping it to themselves, people found out about it, so they just called them witches. So they killed them. I mean, we all have God-given abilities. Just some people don't use them. They don't know how to access that.
In this world, Brenda, you have agents of evil. Whatever title they want to give themselves, they are working for evil. Put it that way. And I've often said that these dark black witches are sort of religious agents of evil. They're working sort of from a religious point of view on it. Although witchcraft is really not truly a religion, it is a profession,
Yes.
a craft. It's called witchcraft. Yeah, they do different things. They acquire different powers and all that stuff. But it also has a belief system attached to it. Paganism, it has that. It has that, belief system attached with it. That a lot of people are, connected with that. But you have agents of evil in every profession, wherever they may be. They can be in your schools. They can be in your churches. They're definitely in your government. They're in your media.
Yeah.
They're in Hollywood. They're everywhere
Yep.
because that's the way evil operates. It's like the giant tentacles of an octopus. It goes
Yep.
everywhere. No matter what. And
Well,
something that struck me is very interesting. I was reading the other day where even Christ at the Last Supper, was making a speech to his disciples and said, "My Father has given all 12 of you to me, and one of you is the devil."
yep.
There's always an inside man being put on the inside. And here's the weird thing about it. It can be a lady sewing circle, or it can be a church, man. There's always somebody from the bad side in there to cause trouble, and mess up stuff. That's just the way evil works. You got to understand that,
Right.
It's kind of like that story Donald Trump, told about the eagle and the snake. The eagle told the snake, "I'll take you across the river, being a nice guy. I'll take you across the river." And the snake said, "Well, I appreciate it. So the eagle took the snake up and was just taking him across the river and was about to drop him on the other side when the snake bit him.
Yep.
And the eagle said, "Why'd you do that? I was good to you. I took you across the river. Why'd you bite me?" And the guy said, "Well, I figured you'd understand. I'm a snake. That's what I do."
Oh, oh yeah.
That's a
That's
snake.
true.
That's a snake for
And
you.
evil does. That's the way evil. Yeah, that's the way evil works. That's the way evil operates. And I'm gonna tell you one more thing about an eagle. By the way, an eagle, it is said, will circle his nest 3 times before he lights on it. Why does he do that? Because he's looking and checking for snake in the nest.
Oh,
Make sure you don't have a snake in your nest.
right.
That's what the eagle is teaching us. Make sure you don't have a snake in your nest. Because snakes are smart. They could get up in there and they will get the eagle in the nest, and kill him. So, the eagles, be smart like the eagle. Watch out for snakes in your nest.
Wow. I don't know, snakes in my nest. I do that in my house. I always make sure, when it starts getting hot, walking around looking for snakes. Yep.
Yeah,
they
got
managed to get in.
They don't need any snakes, no ma'am. But I'm gonna tell you what, the only snakes that truly bother me are the ones that walk around on 2 legs.
Yeah.
There's
There's plenty of them. Yeah.
Yeah. I know a lot of them, they don't bite. They're not poisonous, so they may bite you. It may hurt a little bit, and the poisonous ones you try to stay away from. But the ones that walk around on 2 feet now, they're the ones that'll get you in a spot that you won't even see it coming. So, yeah, that happens.
Oh yeah,
There's a lot
I
of
have been
them.
there. I know, definitely. Yeah. Yeah.
So, Dennis, did you ever finish
Absolutely.
your book that you were working on? Did you get that finished?
No, I'm still working on. I'm trying to get it done. This it's called Paracryptidology and hunting monsters and things of nightmare. And it seems like every time I'm about ready to wrap it up, I find something else to. So it's still ongoing a little bit. I was hoping I'd get it
I've
done
got
by the end of the year, but maybe the beginning of next year before we get that thing done. But I want to cover some very interesting cryptids and stuff. You know that some other people haven't covered, like the Bearman and other things like that. I want to make it more of an interesting read in that respect because it's all about monsters, you know.
yeah, I've got your other 3, 2, 3 back here. I have your first one, your second one, and I believe your third one because you're working on your fourth book, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, well, I had 2 books of poetry that were done, yeah, and then 2 books on paranormal. So I have 4 books out altogether, yes, ma'am. And Uh, I did the one on the paranormal. It's called Beyond the Shadows, which is a field guide to the paranormal. It tells you a lot of people pack that in their, their suitcases or whatever for field work. But then the other one is called The Road Unseen, a
Yep.
paranormal journey into high strangeness. So that's some weird stuff that happened to me several years back. Actually, when I had my UFO experience and some other weird stuff. I was pretty much there for a while, living the movie, the Mothman Prophecies. If you've ever seen that movie, I was kind of living that. It was weird stuff. I was telling somebody the other day, and this was before drones were pretty well known. I was doing a big Bigfoot uh, investigation, and I was actually on the ground casting an 18-inch footprint. And I hear something, I look up, and there's a doggone drone over me. This had to be one of the first time I ever seen one like that. Now, we had model airplanes and stuff that would fly and all that stuff, but
Right.
this was the actual one of the prototype drones, you know. And people asked me about that day, said, what do you think about drones? I said, well, I probably saw one of the very first ones, and I think it was a government drone, without doubt.
Was
But
it big?
because we had some government, we had government vehicles that showed up out of nowhere. Weird stuff. Just did a Bigfoot investigation. That was weird. And then I took that same cast. I left it in the back of my truck. And when I went home, I left it in the back of my truck. And during the night, my dog alerted me because he had a distinct bark when somebody was outside. And I got up, and there was somebody out in my yard messing around because there was a gate left open that I always close and all that stuff. I went immediately. I was like, "Oh God, I hope that cast is still in the back of my truck." And I was, luckily it was. And but somebody was. I mean, it's like they followed me home from that investigation. That was weird.
Oh wow. Yeah,
And all kinds of weird stuff happened.
if the government's following you around with drones and following you home, you stumbled onto something that
Oh,
they don't want you to know about.
I've had
That's
them, but
true.
I talk about that in the book. That they buzzed my house several times. They would drive around my house in black government vans and vehicles. They
Yep.
shadowed me certain places that I went. What was they? Why were they doing that? It was harassment. I was beginning to get a little paranoid about it. And getting weird phone calls. My mail was tampered with. I would get letters that were open, and
Oh, wow.
Uh-oh.
you could tell they were open. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
weird like that. And like I said, and I knew without doubt for some reason. And I tell you what happened though, right before all that happened with the Bigfoot thing, is that UFO sighting I had, and I called that in to MUFON at that time, and I did a report on it. I actually didn't call it in. I typed it in and sent it as an email to them. My experience, what happened with that. I have to tell you about it sometimes. It's a long story, but anyway, I talked about like 3 years later to the guy that was moving. I said, "Hey, did you ever get my thing?" He said, "Oh, we never got it." We never got it. I know what's in it. You never got it. You know, somebody intercepted it. Had to. There's no other,
Yeah.
no other reasoning on that. But that's when that really started. After I I got in touch with MUFONs when all that crazy stuff started happening. They were watching me because of the UFO thing. I don't think it was the Bigfoot, but I think they were interested because of what I was doing with Bigfoot. But I think it started with the UFO thing.
Probably.
Freaky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why they they tell you. I know when I lived in Arizona, there was a lot of activity out that way, and one day we were sitting there and we saw this big ball that looked like it was on fire. We were in the back of a pickup truck, my ex-husband and I, and somebody else was driving. We were going up this hill, and we seen it just drop, boom, like out in the middle of nowhere. And he said, "Oh my God, what was that? I think we better call somebody." I said, "Oh no, we ain't calling shit. We're not calling anybody because they're going to want to know what we seen, where we seen it, what time it was. No, that's okay. Somebody else can call it in, not me. No, because you call things in like that, and they, they check you out and make sure that you haven't called in several different times over things. And if you have, then they just deem you crazy. If not, then they show up at your door and they want to talk to you. And
yeah, I've seen quite a few, and I've never called anybody. I mean, maybe a friend, but
call a friend.
What I saw was basically a black triangular craft. It came over my head. It was big as a football field and completely silent. It made no noise whatsoever. It came over my head close enough. I could have hit it with a rock. That's how close above me it was. And it was solid black, and it was a very strange metallic looking black. And it had a very slight, like purplish glow to it. And it passed above me. I know it had to be doing at least over 1,000 miles an hour. I mean, as fast as this thing was moving, it was just gone. And I've never seen anything like that. I mean, I've seen everything that flies just about. I've never seen anything like that. And everything I know of has a noise. It makes a noise. That was completely eerily silent.
Yeah, they
And as
say
big
they
as it
are.
was, like I said, if you would set that thing down in a football field, you wouldn't have had a whole lot of room to walk around it. That's how big that was. And
Wow.
and I had one other person that saw it that day, but they wouldn't talk about it. I wanted to put them on record, but they didn't want anything to do with it and they won't talk about it. But they saw it too. That confirmed what I saw. But I'd never got a real, completely good, clear look at it because it was in and out of the clouds above me because it was very low hanging clouds that day. And but I saw enough of it to know what it was. I mean, what I was looking at. But I had people ask me later, what do you think it was? I said, I don't know. I really don't. I mean, if we have something like that, at Area 51, my gosh, we could take over the world tomorrow if we wanted to. Nobody could
Oh,
hold us
and
back from it. But I said it was very military looking. But whose military? I don't know. That's
right.
all I can say.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because I
see.
know our government makes that stuff. I know they do too. They they get the technology, they put it together, they fly them around, they play with them. They did that a lot out at
Well, we
Area
gotta
51.
remember, I tell that, Brenda, to people. We got to remember when it comes to the government, whatever technology we have right now, they've got it 100 years in advance of what we have.
Yep.
I remember back in the 1970s, we had spy satellites that could read the headlines on the newspaper in Moscow. Think how many years ago that's been and what we may have now. They have technology that can turn your TV on and watch you and record
Yep.
you from your
Yep.
house without ever being on. They can
Yeah.
do
Well,
that.
they can go outside
They
your
have
house and see inside of
Wi-Fi
it.
signals. The next generation of Wi-Fi, listen to this. The next generation of Wi-Fi, which will be 6, will be able to tell them exactly what you're doing in your house. It can
Yeah.
track you that way.
Yeah. I think they
Yeah.
already have that. They can go outside your house and be outside your house, and they have
Mm-hmm.
this device they can point to your walls, and they can see that you're in there, and how many people are in that house. I think that they have probably have that device. I think that ICE uses it too.
Oh,
Mhm.
really?
They,
Oh yeah.
yes, so they know what they're up against if they're going into a home. They can
And you
see
know,
how
a
many
lot of
people
those,
are in
a
there.
lot of those sales houses are fake. They're not
Hmm.
real things. They're there
That's
for
right.
another purpose, though. Yeah. But
Yeah,
you know something about the Wi-Fi that we're using right now? They do not know without doubt what that would do to you. They don't know what it's doing to you. What it may
I
be
don't.
doing to your brain waves, what it may be doing to your body. They don't have any idea what
I don't think they
it could
care.
be doing.
I don't
They
think they
don't care.
And
care.
you know, I'm gonna tell you something really scary. Okay, because
Yeah.
I had a recent incident where I have very bad back problems, and I was given a drug that screwed me up. This was about 3 months ago. I was taking this. I had amnesia from this. It was some stuff I still don't remember. I mean, I had memory loss. I was doing stuff. They said I was doing stuff that didn't even act like myself. You know what I'm saying? I was. This was uh, gabapentin. You ever heard of
Yeah,
it?
I
Gabapentin.
take gabapentin.
Don't take it. Stay away from that stuff. It's
I've
bad.
been on
What
it
it
for I've
it's
been on it for years, but I think they started you off on too
it
high
was
of a
doing
dose.
weird stuff to me. I
Yeah.
was writing stuff. I go back and say, God, did I write that? I don't even remember writing it. Yeah.
And you might have
I
had
don't
an
like that
allergic.
idea. I don't like to be in
Yeah,
control of my faculty. Yes.
yeah, and you might have
Um,
had
uh,
an allergic reaction to it,
but
like your
that's
body
the thing
can't
about
take that.
I
Uh-oh.
worked around the medical profession for 30 years, okay? And
Yeah,
I can tell you without doubt, when they give you a pill, whatever it may be, they do not know what it's going to do to you. They
that's
No,
don't.
true.
they don't. They test you out like a guinea pig.
Yep,
It's
they
a
sure do.
gamble. It's a big gamble. Yeah.
I mean, it's like me. I can't have any of the psyllins, not penicillin, amoxicillin, none of that. And I can't have. I'm
Okay.
allergic. Yeah, I'm allergic to almost every pain medication out there. If I take one, I have to have a Benadryl with it. And I can't have morphine because morphine will stop my heart, and I can't have anything that's morphine based. So I mean, I'm screwed any way you look at it. I can't have anything. When I pass a kidney stone, I just go in there and tell them, just give me an IV full of fluid so I can just, pass it. And they're looking and they're trying to get me out of pain, and they're like, God, you're allergic to all the good stuff. I'm like, I know. So, but
Yeah.
a lot of times some people's systems just can't handle certain things. Now, when I started on
No,
gabapentin, it was back
while
in
I was
two.
taking this, I did not know how bad I was, until I stopped
Yeah,
taking it and like fog cleared away from my brain. You know what I mean? It was
yeah,
weird. I did
yeah.
not know
They
how bad I was
they
until
started
I
me
stopped
on
it.
a very low dose, and I mean, because I started taking it in 2016, so you know, and then they got it a certain, and now I don't need it any higher. I don't take a whole lot of it, but I just take enough that keeps that edge off. Because between my neuropathy and all of the other things that I
Well,
have going on with me, so
I was taking a very high dose. I was
oh,
taking a very high
they
dose.
they shouldn't have given you a high dose right off the bat. They should have started you
No.
off small.
Yeah.
No, they should not have. But they'll experiment with you any way they want to. That's the way they do.
That's
Right.
They
true.
don't say. Don't worry about it.
We'll
It's like,
just give
here,
That's the
try
them
way it goes.
this.
and
You
see what
have to.
Yeah.
happens. Ah.
Oh, we better get you off of that, do you think?
Yeah.
So, they're terrible,
Uh,
man. Mm-mm.
I had doctors
But
actually tell me that now. If this does so and so, this does so and so, do you stop taking it? Oh, I said, I will. Don't worry, I will stop taking it. Yeah.
yeah,
But they told me, really, I screwed up with the gabapentin because you're supposed to slowly work yourself off of it, and I stopped immediately. I was supposed to slowly work myself off. They didn't tell me that either. You know?
yeah. They're supposed to slowly work you into it, and then slowly work you off of it. So yeah. But if they started you off
Yeah,
with a high dose, they didn't take any
uh,
slowing down, putting you on it.
yeah.
That's for sure. That's terrible. That's
Yeah,
terrible.
that is.
So, what have you been up to lately? How's things going out there?
Like I said, I've been doing some research, trying to get some writing down. I cut out one of my podcasts. I usually was doing about 3 podcasts a week, but I'm down to 2
Yeah.
now because I wanted to get some more work done on the book there. But I've been doing a lot of research in that and had a lot of interesting cases come up. I do a paranormal consultation service. People call me,
Right.
talk to me, send me emails about their problems and stuff like that happen, whether they're demonological or whatever. And so I've been involved doing a lot of that here lately. It seems like it, kind of like runs like a retail thing. Every now and then everything get real quiet, and boom, you have a bunch of all the time.
Yeah.
So I've had that happen a couple times, yeah. But
Like,
it's just it's regular cases like that I told you about with a woman and the voodoo people next door, and just several cases like that I've had recently. Although I have a lot of people that send me photographs and all that, But I tell you what, with AI now, that has really screwed up our whole profession.
yeah.
It's really messed up because you don't really know what's real or what could possibly be real anymore. That's the
Right.
sad fact of it all. But and that's why I tell people, I said, I'm very interested in looking at your photographs and hear the story behind it and all that, but I can't vouch for it. I can't go out
Right.
on a limb and say I believe this or that because I wasn't there. I got to be there to really vouch for it, Although no matter how much I want to believe you, and then no matter how authentic it looks, there's so much fakery out there that you got to be so very. You would not believe over the years how many fakers I have dealt with. I had one woman. Let me tell you this. I had one woman contact me one day. Said, "Oh, my grandmother's house is haunted. It's full of spirits. There's demons here and all this stuff. And you gotta come help my grandmother." So I said, "Oh yeah, sure. See what's going on." So this poor woman, when I get there, she's probably in her 80s or something like that. She is scared out of her wits. And this woman it's a granddaughter. This has, said, "I've even got pictures of these ghosts. I got pictures of the demons and all that." I said, "God, I want to see them. Let me see." And I was talking to this woman, trying to calm her down. She was a very nice lady. And she started showing me these pictures that are obviously made on a phone app. I'm not stupid. I may not be the sharpest knife in the door, but I'm not the dullest either. Okay. And I'm looking at, I think, lady, I pulled her aside. And I said, I know it suddenly dawned on me what this woman was doing to her grandmother. She
Oh
was
no.
trying to get her grandmother to think she was losing it and trying to get her grandmother's house by
Oh
having her
wow.
Oh.
put somewhere. That's what she was doing. She kept saying, "I don't want my grandmother to live here anymore. I don't want her to live here anymore like this, and all this." So I pulled this woman aside. I said, "Look, lady," I said, "Look, I'm not stupid. I know what you're doing here. Those fake photos are not going to fool me, and this fake story you've made up is not going to fool me." I said, "What you're trying to do is you're trying to steal your grandmother's property, and
Yeah.
if I find out you do that," I said, "I'm going to go to the authorities, and you're gonna be sorry." "Oh, I wouldn't do anything." I said, "Look, I'm not stupid. Okay, I know when I'm being lied to, and I know what you're doing, and I know why you're doing it, and you better stop it right now." So I went and so this lady is real upset. She's a real Christian lady. So I said, "I'm going to bless your house. I'm going to cleanse your house for you, and I'm going to run all of them off him." So I do that. It's one of the very strangest house exorcisms I've ever done. But anyway, I do that. I go through the whole thing, and I tell her, "You got nothing to worry about, ma'am." I said, "They're gone. They're gone. There's nothing here anymore. There's nothing but you. Oh, she was relieved and everything. I left her. But I told that woman walking out, I said, "I better not have to come back.
Or find out that
I
you
better
did
not."
anything else. Hmm.
But that's not what, especially do your grandmother like that. I mean, that's,
That's
Yeah, that's
I don't
terrible.
know.
sad.
That's wrong.
People will do anything just to greed, greed,
No.
Yeah.
money, and greed. It's terrible.
Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah. Go play pranks on
But
your
you remember
grandmother and tell her house on it.
Poor
those ghost
grandma.
pictures, don't you? For a
Do I remember
while, you could
what?
make ghost pictures. You remember
Oh, yeah,
those?
yeah. Yes. Yep. And that's what it
That's what you.
was. Oh my God.
I would use one of those apps in one of my lectures to show people how easy it was to fake a ghost picture. I
Yeah.
had a picture of me standing with a ghost there, which was a fake. But I said, I don't know. And here's another one I had. I had this woman call me one time from Texas. I think it was Fort Worth, Texas. Called me. I reminded her, oh, demons are attacking my children. They're scratching them, they're biting them, they're doing all kinds of things about it. Said, I will fly you out here to get rid of these things. Said, I'll hire you right now and I'll fly you out here. I'll pay you to get rid of these things and all that. And I said, well, whatever it is, I'll help you. I'll do what I can, and I said, especially when it comes to children being attacked and all that thing. And I said, when did this start? She said, oh, started like 3 weeks ago, and I think we were playing around with the Ouija board. Oh, by the way, I'm writing a book about it.
Oh my gosh.
The children are being attacked, and you're writing a book about it?
Oh my
Wow.
goodness.
I said, I know where that was going, okay?
I mean, I
She
can
was trying to
understand
use
if
me.
if
She had a book and a movie in mind on that one, definitely.
Trying to make some
yeah,
money from her kids'
I can
demise.
I can understand if it's something that she had been going through all of her life and she has different things going on with that. And why do I smell like something is on fire? I swear my neighbor's
Yeah.
gonna burn the house down one day. but I can understand wanting to write a book like that. But just 3 weeks ago, I played with the Ouija
Afterwards, yeah.
board, and
Afterwards, I can understand. But in the middle of all that going on, you didn't write a book about it.
yeah,
You're doing that, You're doing that to write the book. Okay, that's what you're doing. That's what you're doing it for. But
yeah, that's
uh,
it.
I don't know. I had one man. I tell you, it was a real funny one. I had one guy, and I had another guy try to pull something like that on me, saying that him and his wife got pulled out of bed one night by these spirits, and they were calling me from a parking lot in a motel somewhere or something. They come up with some of the weirdest stories that are very obviously fake. They're just trying to get a movie or book started or something like that, or be on a TV show or something. Anyway, I had a guy call me at one time, and he said, "Look," he said, "I got some weird noises in my attic." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah." And this was in the winter time. It had just gotten winter. And he told me, I think he lived downstate. He said, I got some weird stuff going on in my attic. I hear some. He said, I think my house is haunted. I said, well, let's do this. I said, okay, you go up in that attic in daylight. Wait till daylight. Go up there, take a flashlight with you, and look around for squirrel nests while you're there.
Yeah.
Raccoons, squirrels.
So
Yeah.
right next day, I could kind of hear that sheepish kind of voice. How did you know there were squirrels in my attic? I said, well, that happens. It happens.
Yep.
We
Yeah.
had
Yep.
squirrels in our attic one time. You could hear them rolling the acorns across the ceiling.
Well, yeah.
My
They sound
my
like
ex,
footsteps.
Yeah.
They
yeah,
sound like footsteps. I heard them do that. Yeah.
yeah. My ex mother-in-law one day, my ex husband comes running out of the bedroom. I'm in the kitchen with her, and he goes, come here, you got to hear this. There's something going on. Come here. So I go into the room and I'm sitting there and I'm listening, and you can hear scratching, and it sounded like it was coming from in the wall. And so I said, where's the attic door? Is it in the garage? He goes, yeah. Well, you're not going up there. I said, yeah, I'm going to go look. So I went up there, took my flashlight. I'm on the ladder and I'm looking around. And I took something and threw it where it made noise. And this raccoon family comes walking out. It was raccoons. And I'm telling him, I said, ain't nothing to be worried about. It's raccoons, but we need to get rid of them because they're going to be a menace if you don't. But yeah, he was all scared. There's a ghost. There's something in here. It's scratching on the walls. It's scratching on the ceiling. Now I knew it had to have been an animal. So that's my first go-to, especially if I don't feel it's a ghost. I'm gonna say, let me go look around and see what I can find. Because there might be something up there. But yeah, it was raccoons, a mama and 3 little babies. It was wandering around. It's cold outside. The animals want to come in, you know. They want to be somewhere where they can be warm. Because it even gets cold enough here in Texas
Well,
that our raccoon blossoms want to come in.
I've mentored a lot of groups over the years, and we used to tell them that story, and that was sort of a thing we used to tell them. Say, okay, you're going to head out night investigation. Check for squirrels first, okay? Then go ahead. Yeah, definitely.
I had somebody tell me a story one time about Bigfoot hunting, and I about died. These group of, there was four of them, four guys. They went up to go Bigfoot hunting. They were camping out, and of course, they did the whole knocking on the tree type thing, and they heard it back. They heard it come back, and then they did it again, and then it happened again. So they decided, okay, come on, get your flashlights. We need to go looking. So they went looking, and they're walking around. They're being quiet. They hear footsteps and the bushes moving, and they're like, oh my God, and they're getting scared, and they're about ready to pee themselves. And there was another group of people that were up there Bigfoot hunting too, and they were hearing each other. And I thought, oh my God, how embarrassing. They were answering each other, knocking on trees.
Wow, the Bigfoot's up in the mountains laughing.
Yeah, Bigfoots are out there laughing at these idiots, going, look at this, wait, watch. But yeah.
Joe, I was telling someone that the other day, the mystery of Bigfoot was solved for me a long time ago because I actually saw him face to face and actually walked up on him. And until that time, I'd seen him a couple of times before then, but it had been a long distance, a good ways away. This was a very close up look at him. And the weird thing about that encounter, and that happened that night, it was deep in the woods. I mean, nobody knows how dark it is when you go that deep in the woods and there are no lights around nowhere. I mean, you can't see your hand in front of your face. I was looking through a night vision scope when I first saw him, but we did something that night that and it had results. I had been reading books about how they would hunt tigers in India, and they would flush them out of the bushes. So when I had two guys with me, I sent one guy down on the left side and the other guy on the right side, way down deep in the woods, to see if it was flush something out in the middle. And sure enough, it worked. I was staying in the middle, and this guy come through the trees, and like I said, he had when I first saw him, I stood up. I had been sitting down on a log, and I was resting my eye for a minute because if you ever look through night scope for a while, it hurts your eye, after a while.
Right.
So I was kind of resting my eye when I heard him, So I stood up and put up my eye, and I saw him. I saw him step out of these saplings. It was like a bunch of maybe 6 foot high saplings there. And he stepped out and started towards a very big white oak tree that was there. I mean, a huge tree. And he started toward, and he stopped and looked at me. Because I had stood up and walked towards him. I was coming towards him. So, Dennis, why didn't you run? I said, I was running to him. I wasn't going to run away from him. I wanted to see more of it. And and stopped. And I was close enough, honest to gosh, I could have went out and pulled his beard. He had a beard, and I could have pulled his beard if I wanted to. I wouldn't advise that.
No,
but
that probably wouldn't be
there good. He was, just big as big as life, and about all 8 foot something of him. He was big, and he was looking at me like, oh, "What are you doing here?" Kind of had a surprised look on his face. I'm sure I did too. We were looking at that eye to eye there, and he just kind of looked like. And here's the kind of like, I'm not gonna say it was a disgusted look, but it was just like, I don't need this tonight kind of thing. And he stepped in behind that tree, and he was gone. That was it. I never saw him again. Looked behind the tree. I looked up in the tree. I looked down. He was just gone. I mean, that was it. But the smell was still there. And I hadn't noticed the smell while it was going on, but it hit me. That was Bigfoot, definitely, without a doubt. And to see him that close up, I'm going like, I had to go sit down. I thought, I can't believe this. I can't believe I got this good of a look at him. And those two guys come back. They said, we heard something. Was it a deer or something? I said, no, it wasn't a deer. And they could tell by my demeanor that I had saw what I saw, something that very well excited me. And I'm going, yeah, it wasn't a deer. No, it was far from that. It was definitely what I was looking for all these many years. And, but the kind of a feeling I got from that was like, he just, his own attitude, I think, was like, just leave me alone. I don't want nothing to do with you, kind of an attitude. It is just like, I don't want nothing to do with you. That's it. And I'd rather just stay away from him. And of course, I don't blame him. Knowing human beings, I'm sure that's why I would probably have that attitude too.
Yeah.
But I'll get deep into this tonight because that's a story for another time. But the thing about this, the reason I brought up, you talk about hitting sticks and all that. We tried that during the night, and I don't think that's really very relevant. They know you're there. I've told people over the years, Bigfoot, this thing is super sensitive. It knows where you're at 10 miles away, okay? And it knows what your intentions are. I think it knows if you're out to hunting him or you're going to kill him or whatever you want to do. I had a dream about that afterwards, several weeks later, that I dreamed I found a dead Bigfoot and put him in the back of my truck. And, and I was talking there when we loaded him back in the truck, and I looked at that guy. I said, we're millionaires, don't you? And by the time I say that, these headlights hit us from behind. I figured it's probably the government showing up. That's what I woke up.
You woke up.
Next time I find him, I hope I can bring evidence back on him. I don't want to kill him. I don't want him, but I hope he dies of a natural cause. I not find him, okay, if that's what's going on. But he looking eye to eye with him, face to face like that. He looked too darn human for me to harm him. Okay, to put it that way, it would be like killing somebody in my book. It would, like him, because he had, had a long hair. He had sort of cinnamon color brown is what he was, and he had different shades of brownness to him. And he had long hair, he had a beard, and he had a very human look. It didn't look like an ape that much. He did not have that apish look about him. He had more like a man. But
that's what a lot of people say. They look
kind of a man
like
altogether.
Built man, just very hairy. And at first, when I had first found out about Bigfoot, I thought, what if they're actually the cavemen that they say were here, and they just hide from us? They have that ability to just poof. And I thought, because people would always say they look like they're kind of built and muscular in structure, and but they look more man than animal.
Definitely, he was definitely muscular, but he was very rangy. Like he was not bulky like a bodybuilder. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
He had muscles. Definitely, he was very muscular, but he was sort of rangy, like kind of long. And I went back later, and he kind of, when he went to step behind that tree, there was a lower limb that he kind of ducked a little bit. And I measured that limb at 8.5 foot.
Oh.
And so he had to be very close to 9.
Yeah.
But he ducked down and went back. But where did he go? That's the thing. I'm sitting there going, where could he have gone? Because there's no way humanly possible anything could have got through those bushes down there without me seeing him, because I stepped immediately behind him and he just wasn't there.
Yeah, I think they go through portals. I think there's portals in the woods and trees, next to trees.
I think so.
Like
I think so.
Yeah. Yep. And things just come and go as they please.
I think in some kind of weird way, Bigfoot has a spiritual side to him.
Yes.
He's got a spiritual side to him that's very human-like. And like you said about the caveman, I would say he's closer to that than he is to an ape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never thought ape, because, it's like they say that we evolved from apes. Well, if that's the case, then guess what? There wouldn't be any apes. But now,
that's been disproven now, actually. That has actually been disproven. We did not come from apes. Right. We come from a common ancestor, but they're not apes. Yep. That might be what this is connected to. You know what I'm saying? That could be the missing link, the real missing link of that. You know. I don't know,
Interesting.
but but to finally be able to see a mystery like that right in front of your face, that made my whole year. You know.
Yeah. And I mean, everybody, everybody, I think, has different encounters with different things. Everybody sees something different. Some may appear in a spirit form, some may appear, in what people would think is a physical form, some may appear. So I think that it's everybody's individual, and I think that's by design so that people cannot put the two and two together. So I think that people see them, they appear differently to different people. You know what I mean? I mean, well, Barb. Barb showed me pictures of some small ones, some juveniles in her backyard that her
Uh-huh.
cam got one night when she heard noise out there. Her and her husband were building parts to her house, and her husband had the wood stacked. When they would go out in the morning, the wood would be scattered all over the place, and they'd be like, "What is going on?" So they put a camera outside their backyard, and they stacked the wood up, and they heard noise. They went to the camera, and it wasn't until they redid the footage that she seen, and you can see them, but they were black formed. You just like when people take pictures of them, they're blurry, they're what have you. But you could see them. They were out there walking around, and they were playing with the wood. And I thought, wow, wonder where mom and dad are. To just
They're
let
like,
their children wander.
well, if they're
Mm.
kids, those look like toys.
I guess
I
so.
have I have studied Bigfoot for many many years, and well, I like to call him Sasquatch. I think we're insulting him about the feet, but anyway,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
to me, it's a fascinating thing because it goes so deep. It's worldwide. It's not just here.
Right.
It's worldwide in many different areas. You know, you've got the wild man in Europe. You've got the Yeti. You've got the Yowie, and all say it goes on and on. I think without a doubt that these things, is just my own personal feeling, are connected to the Nephilim that the Bible mentions about.
Yes.
There's some connection with that going on here, and this is the remnant of that race that remains behind, so to speak. And I believe that without a doubt that that's probably where this. But the interesting thing about Sasquatch is very very highly intelligent, I believe, because he's very very curious. Anything that is curious is very intelligent. You can have that with dogs and cats. The more curious they are, the more intelligent they are,
Yes.
because that goes hand in hand. And I've talked to I have a lot of indigenous friends. Uh, they have told me that Bigfoot can do bird calls because he got that from the Indians, because that's how they used to signal each other. He said that he got that from us. And they can mimic our voices. I
Yep.
even had one report, a woman saying that she heard a Bigfoot mimicking a chainsaw.
Wow.
Yes.
They are very good mimics, and they can.
And
I've even heard stories of them singing and talking. I think I've heard them talking. It's sort of a jabberish, weird kind of a language, but I've heard them. And here's the freaky thing: there's even reports of them listening in camps and repeating people's names out in the woods or something. Calling their names from the woods. So they're very smart, very intelligent. They have to be to survive. Definitely. Think about it. You're not no dummy is going to make it out there in the woods that long without being smart. You got to be very smart, and they're very excellent at surviving, at camouflaging, at hiding, and listening, and watching, and learning. They are a learning species without doubt. You have a lot of stories of people leaving them gifts and like baby dolls and something out there in the woods from them, and they do things with it. So they're very intelligent, highly intelligent things, because that's what makes them. That's some of the arrows in their quiver that they've got working for them. But I believe their connection is very ancient, very old. It goes back to the very beginning of this world to a certain extent, and it may be definitely tied with the Nephilim that's mentioned. I think a lot of these cryptids have that distinct tie in with that. Okay,
Yep.
because I won't get into that. That's the show for another night. But there's definitely clues to that. You know, we talk about folklore, but you got to remember something about folklore. It also is very ancient stuff. It goes back to the beginning, before the beginning of known time. We just have lost a lot of it, unfortunately. Maybe we can get some of it back if we keep working at it. But it tells the story of mankind is entwined in all this, and the more we learn, the more we know, the better off we will be in the end for that knowledge.
That's very true. Well, Dennis, we're running out of time. Do you want to tell everybody where they can find you and find your books and all that interesting stuff?
Yes, like I said before, I have 2 podcasts that comes on Wednesday nights at 8:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and Friday night at 8:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's all my shows are 8:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Come on over to Hunting the Shadows YouTube podcast channel and subscribe. And we would like to have you over there and check us out. We have some very interesting shows, definitely. And also, I have some books available, as we talked about, with Barnes and Noble and Amazon. Just look up the author, Dennis W. Carroll. And if you need me for anything, you want to share a story, pictures, whatever you want to talk about, you can reach me at denniswcarroll.com. That's my website. Or you can also get me at denniswcarroll@gmail.com. You can also do me there. And like I said, I have a consultation service. You got any kind of problems, questions, you just want somebody to tell you a story to, whatever, I'm here. And I'm available for that, okay? And so you can, like I say, I have a way to get in touch with me through the website. So if you go there, there you go.
All right. Well, Dennis, I thank you for coming on again. And we're doing something different. I want to let you know. We are being picked up from a internet TV, Channel 12 TV network is going to pick up our show. So we're going to start being on TV. We get to be behind a paywall.
Oh,
so we can, we can talk about whatever we want. We can say whatever we want. It's like you can either pay $9.99 a month for it, and you get access to different shows, TV programs, cartoons, the actual original cartoons when cartoons were cartoons, and it's kind of neat. I went over there. I go over there and I look at some of the movies and some of the shows and stuff they have. So it's pretty neat. It's pretty neat. I like it. Or I think they said it's also $99.99 a year. You could just pay for a year and get out of the way. Some people do that, but it's pretty neat. And a lot of the people that are over there, they're really nice. So I think it's going to be fun. We're going to still keep this channel over here. We renamed it for the TV, and it's called Deep Dive Facts. And we're going to open up a lot of the conspiracy stuff that goes on. And then, of course,
that sounds neat.
Yeah. Everybody likes them conspiracies.
Well, send me a link to that. Send me a link to that, which you get a chance. I'd like to look at it, okay? Yeah.
I sure will.
Yeah.
All right, Dennis. Well, thank you for coming on. And
Thank you.
Oh, it's always a pleasure.
Yes, I love having you on. It's great. But you have a good, rest of the weekend. All right, Dennis. Thanks. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye, Dennis.
That was always fun having Dennis on. I like having him on.
Yeah.
He cracks me up sometimes. Well, I'll tell you.
That's why he was having a hard time getting in. It was on his phone.
Yeah, he couldn't. Something was going on with his computer. So that's why, in a way, you guys couldn't see him that well, because he had to use his phone. because his computer was having some problems. So, but that's okay. I still like having him on. He is a joy and a half. So everybody, do very much so. Thank you for tuning in and watch the. Please subscribe. Please hit the like button before you leave, and then watch for the notifications. And if you want to subscribe to the Channel 12 TV network, just contact me. And if you're on my Facebook, it's advertised on my Facebook, so it'll be loads of fun. I think something different, something new.
Yes,
So,
something new.
yes, I think we're kind of excited about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Started doing research on stuff. So
I know. I've already got a schedule for some shows. So Chad's doing the same thing, which I don't know what he's doing tonight. I don't know if he was driving or what he was doing. He might have laid down, take a nap. Forgot I was doing a show tonight because I thought he was going to join us, but it's okay. It's always all right. So I don't mind. But everybody, have a good rest of your weekend. Be careful out there because things are a little crazy. We all know how that works. And like always, everybody, please be kind to one another. Have a good night.
good night, everyone.